Today I want to talk about being physically weak in jiu-jitsu, and this is something a lot of guys struggle with, and it's kind of just the culture of jiu-jitsu when you think about it. Jiu-jitsu has kind of that reputation of like it's jiu-jitsu for so the small guy can beat the big guy. This probably happened because if you look at UFC one, you had one of the less physically assuming Gracies go into the UFC, and he did very well against bigger, stronger guys, and that was kind of, I guess, the push for that. But when I got into jiu-jitsu and I started to get decent at it, like I stopped thinking of it in that way, and I started thinking of it. It's not about the smaller guy beating the bigger guy. It's about skill sets. It's about the guy who has superior technique beating the guy with inferior technique. All right, and I think that's huge because even if someone walks in to the gym and they are 100 pounds heavier than me, I'm a brown belt, 3-stripe brown belt. Usually I'll do pretty well against the guy. But if you take a similar skill set, say another brown belt or a black belt, and he has 100 pounds over me, I'm going to have a lot more trouble. So that got people thinking like I don't need strength, all right? So I'm not going to train for strength, all right? Being smaller is a good thing. Being more flexible is better than strength. And I don't necessarily think that's true. I think strength training is really important for 3 reasons. I talk about this all the time. Is just durability. When you strength train and you're a strong person, you have stronger muscles, you have stronger bones, you have stronger ligaments, and that's going to make you more durable. And injuries are a part of the sport, but by strength training and building all those things up, you're probably going to get hurt less. The severity of an injury is a lot less, and when you do get hurt, you tend to bounce back faster. And then if we look at cardiovascular fitness, yeah, we need like good cardiovascular qualities. We need aerobic fitness and anaerobic fitness, but it's a lot of muscular endurance. Like I always think of lifting, jiu-jitsu as kind of like low dosage or like low intensity lifting weights because you're constantly contracting your muscles. So it's not like jogging where there's a low level of muscle tension. Jiu-jitsu is a high level of muscle tension, but you have to do it for a long period of time. So if you're stronger and you actually use good technique, you're not muscle and everything, like you're gonna be able to go longer because you're using a low percentage of your strength versus like if you're just kind of a weaker guy, you're kind of forced to always use high percentages of your strength because you don't have that much strength to begin with, and that's why people tend to get gas out so much. And then if you just look at performance, like if you strength train, especially if you're not doing everything on machines, if you're learning how to control your body weight, you're doing squats, you're doing lunges, you're doing dips, you're doing dumbbell presses, you're doing rows, you learn how to control your body in space. So like the learning curve, I'm not saying with every technique, but techniques just will probably come a little easier to you because you understand how to control your body through space. The second reason why I think people tend to not take strength training as seriously, and that leads to a lot of physical weakness, is just like a lot of instructors will say this. I still see this online. I think it's getting like a ton better, but it's still there. Is that just do more jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is going to give you everything you need, and obviously from a specific standpoint, if jiu-jitsu is your sport, just like if it's football, nothing's going to replace the sport. Like building that skill set, you have that's the only place that's going to build your skill set. But if we rely that to prepare our physical body, we're going to be hurting, which is why every other sport, they do strength and condition. Football, basketball, soccer, and especially if you look at football. Football is like a contact sport. I mean, these guys are making collisions, and it's not just to improve their performance, but to handle the stress of that. And I think of jiu-jitsu in the same way because, like, jiu-jitsu is the act of twisting your opponent, manipulating the joints, choking them, and you want some muscle mass. You want strong ligaments to protect your joints when this stuff happens. So that's why it, like, really, I think getting out of that mindset is really important too. And then there's a lot of things ignored in jiu-jitsu. So like any sport, certain muscle groups, certain movements are going to be used repeatedly, and then other areas aren't really used that much. So if you look at someone who's done jiu-jitsu for a while, and they'll be on the mat and they'll look like they'll look awesome. They'll look awesome, but the problem is they stand up and they walk and like their back's rounded and their butt's kind of sticking up, and their hips real tight. So from a strength training standpoint, it's important to develop maybe the areas that you don't really get because you're so curled up. You probably don't get as much glutes as you need to. And if you're all rounded up, your upper back gets real tight. So even do things like rows that can open up your chest, hip thrusts, different hip hinge variations are going to really strengthen your hips to kind of reverse all the positions that we get into jiu-jitsu is going to be really important. Plus, we don't always build the level of strength qualities. You're not going to get really strong with jiu-jitsu. You might get somewhat strong, but you're not going to build these qualities on a high level. And when you build them on a high level, your performance is obviously going to be super high. Your durability is going to be super high, and like I said before, your condition is going to be super high. So don't fall for the trap of, hey, jiu-jitsu is going to give me everything I need. It's going to give me my specific strength, my power, speed, which in a way it's true. But what I always say is, like, if we can build like think of this like a pyramid. At the base of the pyramid, you have this big foundation of strength, power, good cardio. The wider that base is, then when you go jiu-jitsu, like the specific adaptations that you'll get from jiu-jitsu is going to be a lot higher, meaning that you'll have better jiu-jitsu cardio, better jiu-jitsu strength, better grip endurance. If at the bottom of your pyramid it's wide because you have a big wide base of fitness, versus like if you're someone who doesn't really take care of yourself and you have this small base, your potential for those adaptations when you do jiu-jitsu is going to be a lot worse, meaning that it's going to be harder for you to build that specific conditioning because you don't have like a good base of conditioning. Hopefully that makes sense. And the last thing that I think just that leaves jiu-jitsu practice weak is recovery. This is something like not any other sport, like you literally can do it like some guys like every single day. So if you think of other martial arts, think of boxing. You can't box someone every day. You're gonna be brain dead, right? You're gonna have concussions. You're gonna have a lot of medical problems. But if you think of sports always have an off season. Where jiu-jitsu, we don't have an off season, and it's just go, 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 and you can literally train daily. Like I almost train daily, and if you're not smart with it, you don't really recover. And if you don't recover, guess what happens? It's harder to build strength and muscle. It's harder to build strong ligaments, and you might even lose some strength and muscle because you're training so much. So if you don't pay attention to things like making sure that most of you're eating at maintenance calories, that's important, because if you're under eating, you're going to be basically choosing to under recover. So not only are you probably gonna get weaker, but you're setting yourself up for injuries and getting sick and all that stuff. Is do you prioritize sleep, which is super important for recovery? And if you don't prioritize sleep, again, you're going to probably lose a lot of that strength and muscle mass, the strength of ligaments, the bones, all that, like all that stuff. And then load management, which is huge. Like if you're going into jiu-jitsu like 6 days a week and you're going hard as you can, and this was with me when I was like a white belt, blue belt, maybe even purple belt, is you go into the gym and every round is a competition and you're rolling hard. It's like AC/DC. Not AD, I always do that. I call it AC/DC, like the band, like ADCC. But like you're not going to recover. And again, like when you don't recover and you're not giving your body the raw resources, your body's going to be as efficient as possible. So you're going to lose strength, you're going to lose muscle, which is like, if you look at a lot of runners that don't have a lot of muscle, because one, they don't strength train. But another thing is that your body adapts to the stress you apply to it and what you allow it to recover from. So if you're not recovering, you're not going to grow tissue. So, I want to make this video because I wanted to really hammer home how important strength is for your jiu-jitsu quality, your journey, how important it can be for your cardio, for staying healthy. And I always say it like this: is jiu-jitsu is a lot of fun, but it starts to be less fun if you're always hurt. If after 2 rounds you're gassed out and you feel like puking. If you love jiu-jitsu but you just can't recover from it. If you have some of those symptoms, getting strong, getting fit, and we're not trying to be like record lifting powerlifters or bodybuilders, by just building some foundational level stuff, we're going to be able to. I just feel like our jiu-jitsu journey is going to be a lot better, a lot happier. We'll progress faster. A lot of good things that you probably want to happen on the mat happen easier when you're stronger. You have good conditioning. You're somewhat explosive. So take that with what that's worth. So a few ways I can help you guys out. If you're looking for a free way, I'm going to put the link in there. You can go and you can get access to my what I call BJJ Conditioning Masterclass. So it's a series of daily emails and nuggets that you can take and run with, and use that to build an endless gas tank. Number 2, I do one-on-one personal coaching for grapplers. So all that means is that we're going to do an virtual assessment. We're going to get your goals. We're going to write you a personalized program based on your goals. Then we're going to have you do the program, and then I'm here for support every step of the way, which is there's benefits of personal training and online training, but one of the benefits of online training is that you get to talk to me every day. You get to train on your schedule versus mine. Like my clients have to follow my in-person clients; they have to follow my schedule, and that can kind of be annoying. And you get to train where you want to train. So, for example, if my clients, if someone wants to train with me in person, they have to join the gym I'm at right now, right? So with that, you can actually train where you want. So if that's like a Planet Fitness, or if that's a Crunch, or maybe you have a cool home gym setup, you could train there. So that's something I do. If you're interested on that, I'll put the link in there as well.